Welcome to the Oso Spurs Hungover podcast, where we are very much in a happy mood after a emphatic comeback against Crystal Palace. And with us today, we have Johnny. How are you, mate?
I'm really good, man. I'm only back about an hour ago, but it was great to see you yesterday and your extended family at the Lane for a good win. So yeah, all good. Yeah,
Got Stu. How are you, mate? Fresh back from your trip?
All good. A little tired, but all good. How you doing? Looking sweet.
A little bleary-eyed today. A little bleary-eyed. And we've got Deej as well. How are you, man?
I'm doing good.
You watched the game with a cup of...
Yeah, pretty much.
Good. Should we start right in with the game? I think let's go straight into it because yeah, boys, it was one of those games where I think the first 30 minutes we were thinking, I thought things not again. Something doesn't quite feel right. But then that criticism may have been a bit harsh in hindsight. Stu, I'm going to start with you this time because I think you've got some strong views on that.
Yes, I do. I think people need to remember it's a 90-minute game. I've stopped even looking at the WhatsApp groups when the games are on because people just go off, ridiculously early. And it's the end of the world and things are terrible and, it's the worst performance ever. And, I'm with it in the sense that I was expecting a little bit better after 2 weeks to prepare. But it is a 9-minute game. In the first half, we were dominating. We were playing it round. We had the Werner chance, which, if he was as clinical as Son, that's an easy 1-0. And, probably the game goes a lot smoother than that. But, I think people need to relax. And, comments that, we deserve to be 1-0 down, I also thought were just ridiculous because, Crystal Palace did nothing. Then they had a free kick, which, again, in my opinion, was a stupid free kick to give away. It was Bentancur showing he's still not up to it yet. But, for a team that finishes with an XG of, about 0.3, if you look at the average of the various XGs, they did not deserve at any point to be ahead. We dominated the game. We dominated possession. And I thought also Ange, who gets a lot of criticism for his subs, got the subs spot on. As soon as Johnson came on, he was good. He had that really early chance where, again, I think people give him a lot of stick, but he had to open up the body to put it in. But I think, it was fine. People need to remember, and it was an easy 3-1 win in the end, and, let's relax, people. Just chill.
Just chill. Just trust in the man, trust in the manager, trust in the system. And I do have to agree with you there, DJ. I'll pass the one to you. But do you feel the Werner's, because in the first half, that Werner miss, if we want to call it a miss, I don't really think it was, that's a bit harsh. But it was really made out like that was on par with, what we saw Haaland miss today in the Manchester derby. Did you think it was a glaring opportunity, or what did you make of it?
It was a good opportunity, and he probably should have finished it because, those are the kinds of chances you have to finish when you're a professional player. But also, it was just the keeper played it really, really well. He dove at the perfect time. Werner probably could have done something to make it a little bit harder to deal with, but at the end of the day, it was just a good play by the goalkeeper, and it wasn't one of those things that's going to go on like one of those fail comps or whatever. It's just it was a miss. You feel the thing that's the problem with that miss, I think, with most Tottenham fans is there's really only been one other person that consistently gets in those kind of positions for us, and that's Son. And as we saw later in the game, Son's just going to score those 9 times out of 10. So we've kind of conditioned ourselves to be like, oh, man through on goal all the time. And so whenever it doesn't pan out, it's
What makes Sonny's finishing even more amazing? It's kind of a slight side topic, but not staying relevant here. But what I find insane isn't the academy Son runs in Korea, they're not allowed to shoot until they hit a certain age. They're literally not allowed to shoot at goal until they hit a certain age. So I'm assuming that's because Sonny's come from that background as well of, adding that to his game later on, which just to me just makes it even, like you were saying, when he was running through 1-on-1, you're just like, it's a goal. I was just trying to get my phone out of time to get a quick snap of it for the YouTube channel, and I just couldn't get it up in time. It's like, this is definitely going in. And the guy who runs the Spurs talk show just sits one seat in front, and he'd got it up, and it was just so blatantly going to go in. But Johnny, you had a good view on the first half being on the East Stand of our friend Emerson Royale. I think people were lining him up to be the scapegoat for this game if things didn't go well, and then it shifted to Werner when he missed that chance. But what did you make of the guys on that side of the pitch? And you had a good view of them.
Well, I suppose in the first half especially, I thought Royal did well. He was just like, but it's all about the defending, isn't it? He's just really solid defensively. But as soon as, return to attack, Porro was a massive miss from that point of view. And I think the first half, like you're saying, was really very similar to the Wolves game, I guess, in the way that Palace just basically put 10 or 11 men behind the ball pretty much the entire half. So I think Kulusevski's definitely not playing as well as he has done, but I think that what Stu was alluding to earlier also kind of applies to Decky in terms of just the over-the-top criticism that he gets. I think that he did an awful lot of things that were good yesterday, or certainly did several things that were pretty critical. And he was involved in obviously the goal for was it it wasn't Son's goal. It was
a chance.
It was just yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. Yeah, that was a really nice attack, which came from Kulusevski, and there was another involvement. He played, I think, Johnson. Was it Johnson? Timo Werner had a shot just after we went behind, I think, and Kulusevski was heavily involved in the build-up there. So, like, I don't know. I guess it was just another one of those. We kind of woke up whenever we went behind. The goal we conceded, I didn't get a great view of it when in the stadium, but it was obviously totally against the run play. And was Stu saying, people are saying that Palace deserved to be ahead. When you're looking at the statistics, I know statistics don't tell the whole story, but I mean, we had 82% of the ball in the first half, and the whole game was 78%. And territorially, obviously, like Palace were poor. I thought Wolves were far more of a threat than Palace were. Like they have some good players in their team yesterday, but they didn't really. They made a mess of their opportunities to break. So I don't know. I think that we were really good once we went behind. The goal that they scored, I don't know what was happening with the positioning of the wall. That looked very odd. But I presume Vicario knows what he's doing, but it looked like it was way off to the keeper's right. So there's a huge space. It seemed fairly obvious for Eze to hit. But Johnson was fantastic when he came on. Really, what was brilliant, I think, that what would have all enjoyed is his determination and persistence with that work. Chasing the ball off Anderson. Sorry, mate. And it was like great run, just kept going. Because like, how many times have we seen him probably be favourite with his pace when you've got a 101 or a 50-50, but it's not really 50-50. He can start pulling out, or he doesn't really go through the way other players. That was very, very different. So he got the reward for that. Maddison also was still not at his height, but there were quite a few glimpses of Maddison with his passing. His range was a lot better, I thought, than in the last few games. And just the quality he had. The assist for Romero's goal was absolute quality.
Brilliant.
There was another pass he played from kind of around the centre of the pitch to the left flank. I don't know if it's probably for Werner in the first half. Just those outside of the foot passes, and he does it with both feet. It's just there was lots of things. I thought Basuma was better too. And Sonny hit the post. Werner, maybe we could have got a penalty. I think, if those things go in a different direction, then the narrative is very, very different.
And both of those were before the goal.
Yeah, 100%, exactly. So, yeah, I think that it's just one of those things, isn't it? Like, depends on the scoreline, the version of the facts that people want to spin. And, yeah, I think people were overly critical for sure.
Yeah, even if you watch you could argue Liverpool and Man City are the two of the three best teams in the world right now. And even today's performances, both Liverpool yesterday. Anyway, yesterday.
Yeah.
So today's emerged into one for me. But anyway, so Liverpool were pretty like if we had played like Liverpool had and scraped that win in the 98th minute, people would be saying not good enough.
Yeah,
Where's
yeah.
the momentum? But even the best teams against a low block, they all struggle. It is so hard in the Premier League to score against teams that have really good footballers and put them all behind the ball. And then you've got the same as City, right? So they ended up winning comfortably. But if you look at the way you analyse that game, you would say, well, for the first 30 minutes, we had loads of possession and didn't create enough.
Yeah.
You could give the exact same criticism as what our fans were giving to us. And these are two of the best teams in the world. So
and say that they also need to upgrade their striker, like everyone's saying. About Richarlison.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and in the first half, didn't Sonny hit the post as well? Like it wasn't like
Second
we
half,
didn't have. Oh, that was the second half,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, okay, that's where I got a bit. God. So yeah, no, it was. I thought the criticism also on the Kulu and Basuma stuff you've all mentioned there. Do you feel is that because we saw them at their peak under that brief period under Conte where they really were not Conte, sorry, Kulusevski under Conte for a brief period was incredible, like beating his
for
man.
6 months.
And Basuma for a couple of games under Ange looked like this world beater, and then they've kind of regressed to a level slightly below that. Why?
I'm not sure about. I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be the thing. I think it's honestly just that, like, so I genuinely think that so many people are watching games through the lens of, especially because of Twitter and social media, you get this idea that someone's playing poorly, and then that person just is playing poorly. Like Kulusevski has not played bad. You can say like, oh, he's not like playing doesn't look like Mbappe out there, but like of course he doesn't. That's not his game. He's still like he's still like at the top of the chances created charts in the league. He's still probably our best ball carrier in terms of a person who's like an outlet who can bring the ball up from the wing. He's still, and like I said, he's still one of our best chance creators, especially with Porro gone at the moment, who's a really important part of the way that Kulusevski usually plays on that wing. So I think that we just get this idea that someone's playing bad, and then we just run with it. And unless they score, that's the only thing that's ever going to turn someone around from saying, oh, this person's actually playing fine, which is just such a backwards way of looking at it, in my opinion.
I think our fan base just loves being negative. They just like to slag off our players. That's the way I see it. I mean, unless even Son, gets a hell of a lot of criticism. You're thinking, do you actually like any of our players? Do you like the team you supposedly support?
I think in football though, isn't that like it's the most emotional sport you can be invested in. Really, we're all invested in this. The brand of Tottenham to the point where it can ruin your weekend as a fully grown adult, right? Just because some people you're never going to meet didn't win a game. So you are obsessed to a weird level. It's a nice alternative to therapy for a lot of us. But there's a way people project that emotion when they can't control it. They're just like, I can't have any influence on the game in front of me. I can't make Tottenham score. So the only thing I can do is call them useless and rubbish in the hope that they do score a goal and make me feel better again. And it's people's way of coping with it because you've got a clock ticking down over 90 minutes and you're going, I'm also up against time here for this situation to resolve itself. And as that time window gets shorter and shorter, I get angrier and angrier and more frustrated. And the only people I can blame are the people I'm watching right now. So I'm just going to vent at them and call them idiots and useless. You all hear the same comments, wake up, Tottenham! You're asleep, Tottenham.
That is, but the thing is, like that kind of like fan commentary. I think that's warranted. I think that looking at the first half, I do think that we did come out a little bit flat-footed. I do also think that it's important to remember that every team in the league has scored more goals in the second half than they have in the first. So that's just kind of like a universal thing. Right. And also, I'm pretty sure I haven't looked at the exact stat, but I looked at the minute by minute chart. I did not add them up because I was lazy, but it looks like in every 10-minute block, it just more and more goals are scored. So of course we're going to score more goals late. That's just how this game works. People get tired, and when you get tired, you make more mistakes. Everyone in this league has fantastic defensive structures, especially when your goal is to have 10 men behind the ball at all times, which is basically what Palace were doing. From after their goal, I think that they maybe had 10, 15 touches in our half, like total. They did not care to go forward. Even after we had our second and third goal, they created nothing. The entire game, basically.
Entire game.
They had 2 shots inside of our box. One of them was blocked, and one of them went outside of the stadium. Like, they had a moment of brilliance from a fantastic player and Eze, who, if the cards fall right, and I would love to see him at Tottenham. I don't know exactly how he'd fit in, but he's just a brilliant, brilliant player, and Tottenham can always make use of brilliant players. But I think that saying that our team needs to wake up, like shoot more or whatever, that's warranted criticism, because that's fine. But the whole Kulusevski needs to leave Tottenham immediately. Werner should never set foot on the pitch again. Like, that kind of stuff, just, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's, like, they're gonna, like, what do you hope to accomplish there? I know we talked about this before, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But, like, the only thing you do there is kill their confidence.
Well,
I'm just looking now. Go on, sorry, Stu.
I was going to say, and that's, referring to what Seth came out with before the game, that comment on social media that, fans need to think about what they're saying, because it does impact the players. And, atting, players and slagging them off and telling them they need to get out the club and they're rubbish. I mean, it's not nice. And how do we expect these humans, because at the end of the day, they're human beings, to react when their own fan base is telling them that they're shit? I mean, how is that productive? I just don't understand the mentality.
It's just a coping mechanism, isn't it? It's a weird way of dealing with it, but it's never going to go away. And it's like you said, it's amplified with Twitter, because you can do it on a platform which there's no accountability for what you write or what you say. But like the whole even hysteria over the last week, how rubbish we are and all that kind of nonsense, like people start questioning Ange and things. It's like, we've lost 1 in our last 7 league games.
Exactly.
Like, did you support Spurs prior to that peak Pochettino year, or was that just like the baseline of your only way of looking at Tottenham when we went 1 season unbeaten at home? Because 1 loss in 7, that's like top 4 title challenging form, and we're rubbish because we didn't win 5-0. Not good enough, because Arsenal won 6-0. We only won 2-0. It's very frustrating, and it just drags the energy down.
It's kind of touching on what you were saying before about Liverpool and the game, the way that the narrative is expressed and shared in the mainstream media, as well as from a fan's point of view. But if you go back to like the halcyon days of Ferguson and Manchester United, it's not like they won the league. His last title, they were pretty poor for the season. Yeah. It was just like everybody else was even worse. There's a lot of instances where, and I would say most years, I mean, look at City. They've been really ropey the earlier part of the season, and then suddenly, they kick into form. But it's about the points on the board at the end of the day. Like, all these cliches come out, so I don't think that. Yeah, you keep reading the stuff about we've been crap since the 10th of December when we played Newcastle, and that was against the side that was basically putting out the B team, blah, blah. We were very good that day, and Newcastle were understrength, etc. But, it's not as if... How often do you see a team that is putting in performances week after week where they're just like hitting their stride from the first minute to the last, and they're just really consistently... almost nobody's doing that. Like, the team from down the road have hit a lot of goals in the last few weeks, but that's not going to continue. It's just the normal pattern of a season, with all top sides are going to struggle. And the fact is, yesterday, the way that Spurs overcame the situation, the way that the quality that we do have, and I think most balanced supporters will look at our squad, see the very significant upgrade in personnel from last season. Also, I think that, and again, sort of touching on the stuff about players, like Sessegnon expressing their feelings about things and in relation to fans, like, I think really early on the season, we've obviously had the connection with the manager and with the players really firmly established, and a nice sense that everybody's kind of in the same, really enjoying everything, and we're all kind of in the same experience. And it's like you look at the players that we have, and look at how much it means to them. There is a good team spirit, I think. There are like so many young players. There, players that are only beginning their careers with us, like Kadogi and Van de Ven and people like that. But Van de Ven was unbelievable yesterday again, and we've got these guys like he's just come to Spurs. Bergvall down the guys. There's so much to be positive about, and I just don't. It just really winds me up that people are banging on this.
There's this
negative
baseline
thing
of like, unless we're winning the league,
Yeah.
nothing is good enough.
Yeah.
That is our level. It's like it's not though. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
like people go, Europa League's below us. Don't want to hear that crappy anthem. It's like, when was the last time we won it? From my memory, every time
Yeah.
I've seen us in the Europa League, we've been dumped out by a team
Yeah.
you had to Google the name of, and there's
Exactly.
no badge. Even you can't even find their badge when you look at the
Yeah.
score. You're like,
And the
and we're
managers
getting
and
dumped
deals.
out
Exactly.
by them.
The Rovers.
And then we're going, we're above that rubbish. It's like, well,
Yeah.
no, until we're cruising through that competition and winning it back-to-back seasons, then we're too good for it. We are not too good for it. Like, if we finish 5th, and that's not enough for Champions League this year because of the points, and we are in Europa League, I hope we go all out for the Europa League, and I would celebrate winning that as I would winning the FA Cup or another major trophy. So,
Actually, I think 2 league titles, guys. I mean, let's be realistic.
Yeah, and
exactly.
we were founded in 1882. So what's that?
Yeah.
2 league titles in like 150 years or something. Like, come on, it's So it is frustrating, but
on a positive note, how much does Romero love us after he scored his goal? He was banging and kissing that badge like it was going. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we just won 3-1, and we've been talking about negative stuff the entire podcast. Let's talk about from the time they scored their goal to the end of the game. Let's focus on that part. We should talk about that, because I think that as soon as Palace scored their goal, I think it was fairly clear. Like, I think 5 minutes after that game, I can't do sports betting in my state because Texas is not the land of personal freedom, apparently. But if I could, I would have put a lot of money on us to win by multiple goals at that point, because it looked like a switch flipped, and we just decided that they were no longer allowed to play the game.
Yeah,
and they weren't. Like, even after we scored our second, then we went and got a third. Like, it was we looked unbelievable in that, like, from minute 60 to minute 90.
To be honest, I would suggest that we looked good the entire second half. As we were just saying, before they scored, we had the penalty shout, we had the sun on the post. I thought the second half we were good. Then obviously, they got a free kick goal, which made everything look bad. But and again, that free kick, you guys know I always love Vicario, but allowing that wall was appalling. That they just put their players, and then our players stood at the side of them. I mean, obviously they're going to move out of the way. They should have just stuck him behind. That was just ridiculously poor direction from the goalkeeper.
I was in the south, so I could see it perfectly from behind. I was thinking, there's just so much room and space for a really good player here to whack it in. It's just going in. But like Dee said, the performance though, second half was classic, back to best, brilliant Ange ball. Yep. Even I thought, like, he got so much criticism on the subs, but the subs worked beautifully as well. He went from strength to strength. What difference it had having a squad? You're bringing on these... Yeah, Johnson's coming on, and like you said earlier, I think Stu mentioned it. He's finally, or Johnny, someone did. He's taking on players finally. We're like, finally, brilliant. And Ange made these comments about him that he's not bought for this season. He was bought for next season, really, because he needs to understand how to read the players around him and understand what the team are trying to do. So when you start Johnson from the bench, he typically gets that view and he goes, right, I get it. I get what we're doing here. And you bring him on and he reads the game much better than when you start him. And I think he's really starting to get a feel for the philosophy of the football and get better and better. And I thought Basuma got a bit of unfair criticism as well. Go on.
Just go about Johnson. I think, what we've all criticized him for is pulling out tackles. And, as Johnny said before, that's what led to the goal that he didn't. I think if Johnson's now kind of woken up and, is a bit more, happy to go into tackles, etc. We might be getting this
Mm.
player that now we all understand why Ange spent almost 50 million quid on, because the boy has class. Simple as that.
You're not
Yeah,
soon,
take care.
my friend.
Yeah, take care.
But yeah, so brilliant performance. Ange proving doubters wrong once again. I want to just finish. I'll start with the only kind of negative-y kind of question. It's from Spursy Up 1882. Should we sell Kulu to buy a natural right winger like Pedro Neto in the summer?
Yes, we should. No, I'm kidding. We don't need to sell the buy. Everyone has looked at our finances. Like, let's be real here. The only reason I think you sell a player at this point is because Ange doesn't want them, and I think based on the amount that Kulu's played and the positions they've been played in, Ange does want Kulu. I mean, and based on watching Kulusevski and the kind of like, not necessarily goals and assists, but other kind of like progressive stats that he's put up, who wouldn't? He's a fantastic footballer, and he's only going to continue to get better. So I think that while I do think we should be looking for some sort of winger who can beat a man, I don't think that it's necessarily. I think that realistically, it's going to be at the expense of either Werner or Richarlison, not Kulusevski at this point, because we already have like Jim mentioned earlier, we already have our right winger of the future, at least hopefully, in Brennan Johnson. So I don't think we necessarily want to bring in another player to start over him.
No, you need squads. You need squad depth. You need different options.
We already have depth, though. We have Kulusevski and Johnson.
Yeah, but I think if we had that, the only thing we're missing, like you said on the wings there, is that that player who takes someone on and goes around them, just as another option when it's right for that.
He goes on the left side. He goes on the left.
Oh yes,
we can't have three right wingers because at some point squad depth is great, but at some point you're just gonna have a player that never plays, and if you have a player that never plays, that player cannot be of the level that we need, I think.
But Kulu's not. I don't see Kulu as a out and out right winger. I see him as a useful player like Werner is that can play across anywhere really in the front three or drop deep.
And
so
in
he's
the
one
midfield.
of those, and in the midfield. So I don't think he'd lose his spot. I think he's always gonna. Worst case for him, he's playing every single week, but some of those times he's going to come off the bench because we're trying something else, and he's coming off and slotting into my position. But he's always going to be key to the squad.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I just want to. But like, if you move Kulusevski somewhere else, then someone else has to get dropped. And like, if you move him back to the midfield, that means you're dropping Madison, Sarr, or Basuma, who right now I think is our best midfield three. Until Bentancur gets back to his best, I don't think you're dropping any of those. You move him to the left, you're dropping Richarlison or Son. I don't think he really plays well off the left. I've never seen him play up front either. So, because realistic, we have our squad depth already is at such like a good place that like you can't like. He is a very good squad piece, and it's really convenient to be able to move around when there's injuries and stuff. But I think that like we mentioned earlier, actually, I think Solomon is actually kind of our perfect, like, Lucas Moura, almost. He can play off both sides, little dribbly guy who could allegedly beat a man. I don't know, he's played, like, twice for us. So
Van the Fence said he was the most talented, one of the most talented players in the squad. I saw an article about that. A couple of people have really rated Solomon in training. Unfortunately, obviously, we haven't seen it yet because of the injury, but I really have high hopes for him.
He's technically gifted for sure, isn't he? Go on, Johnny.
The other thing, going back to Kulusevski, is like, think about what Daniel Levy was able to negotiate last year and get him for a lower price. Think about the investment that he's required from Tottenham, and think about what you're going to get for that kind of money, or what are you going to sell him for. I mean, I just think we've had, and when we're listening through the midfield or the attacking options, and if he's not on your first 11, like, we've had so many injuries this season. There'll be so many times when we've had nobody on the bench. Like, to get rid of a player like that, I just think it's a bit like when we were having the discussion a few weeks ago with Richarlison, and he's sort of finally been hitting the goals that we all hoped he would, and say, okay, you're going to sell him, or who are you going to replace him with? You know, it's the same kind of idea, and I just think that it's with Kulusevski, he's got an awful lot. He brings an awful lot that other players don't have, you know, in his entirety. What what he can, the areas he can cover, the skill sets that he has, his strengths that he has. Like I don't know who his DJ was or Stu was saying about the ball carrying. I mean, there's been so many performances he's been put in, where he's maybe not been as impactful or as kind of, I guess, as glamorous as he was at the very beginning of his time at Spurs. But I think he's had a really decent season. I just think, yeah, it's just disproportionate criticism again. I mean, yeah, we do want somebody who can beat a man. We're seeing that almost every team that's coming to play as a home certainly are coming up with the same attempt to frustrate us, and that's really somewhere where we are lacking. But I just think that there's.
I think it's clear. I think it's clear who we're going to bring in. The player's going to beat a man. I think we'll get rid of Celso. We'll bring in Easy. Yesterday, after the game finished, you could see Son and Skippy and all the rest of them chatting to him. You could see we're already lighting up this number.
They're chatting. The summer's quite a nice situation. We've not got a massive overhaul really. We're just finish off this question because it's kind of summer transfer window related. It's like all we need to do is hopefully sell at least one of Højbjerg and Lascelles, so ideally both. Replace Højbjerg with someone who's just a better utility midfielder alternative to Højbjerg. And then you want, like you said, that left winger, someone hopefully like Eze. That would be amazing. And then ideally maybe a wing back who's more like attacking, who can just come off the bench and play this. They won't be as good as Porro or Udogie, but that's their natural playing style, is to go forward rather than be defensive. And then everyone wants a striker. Everyone's going to say, every team in the league wants a new striker except for Man City. So, maybe if you're being greedy, but I don't think that's between them. You've got plenty of goals there. You've got world-class player and Son and a good backup in Richarlison. So I really don't see as much to do.
Would you guys say that we need to cover a new win back on both sides?
Yeah,
I think in a perfect world, yeah. But I think that if we had to prioritize one, I would prioritize right wing back, because I do think that Davies can do a job at left wing back better. And I think that when he's been forced to play in that position, I think he hasn't looked like Udogie, obviously, because Udogie's a fantastic player, and I think it's shaping up to be one of the best left backs in the world, at least in the system that we play. And Davies is just a solid utility guy, but I think that he gets himself into positions that are good. Like in the Wolves game, he almost had that goal, and he's not playing poorly, I guess. No. And I think that the attack doesn't change that much when he comes on. On the other side, I think that Emerson plays well for what he knows how to do and what he's probably been instructed to do by Ange. But the shape of our attack changes, and I think that causes snowballing issues. So I think that someone who can go and do maybe not exactly what Porro does, because obviously he's a fantastically gifted player, but someone who can emulate what he does better than Emerson does, because Emerson's biggest weaknesses, I think everyone can agree, is his crossing.
Yeah.
And Porro does that really, really well, and especially when we have Richarlison up front, that's super dangerous. Because, I
think it's a real shame about Cess, because I think Cess would have the attributes to be a great backup to Udogie. I think he's got the winger skills that he's had. He can defend. I think, if it wasn't for those dodgy hamstrings, he would be the perfect left back. But I just don't think we can rely on it, unfortunately.
Well, the surgery did work on the left side. It's just unfortunate how he's done the right side. If the surgery works, you never know. Ange might look in pre-season and go, that's the left side sorted, let's sign a right sider. And the next question we had was on YouTube, and that was from Eric. How likely and important is the top four finish how likely and how important for a top four finish is beating Villa? Well, firstly, I don't think we need, if the question there is to get Champions League, we might only need fifth, but
we're going to only need fifth. I'm gonna be completely honest. Even though we're not in the top four right now, the top two right now, let's be unless something crazy happens and City lose in the next round, we're just going to be in the top two. It's Italy and Germany.
Okay,
I think, and realistically, Villa's probably going to win the Conference League. So that'll be points to our coefficient. Liverpool's probably going to win the Europa League. That'll be points to our coefficient. And City's probably going to win the Champions League. I think that the City is probably the least like nailed on of the three, obviously. But like if you had to pick a team right now, I think City is probably still the best team in the world. So like if you have three teams from one country win, you're just going to be in the top two. It doesn't really matter what the other countries do. Obviously, upsets could happen, but I think that barring disaster, I think that it's pretty nailed on for a top. We're going to be a top two finish this year. So,
go on, Trish, you say something there?
I was going to say, but anyway, I think to answer the question, yes, we do need to beat Villa if we want to finish fourth. Because if they beat us, or we don't, I mean, it's going to create a bit of a gap.
Yeah, but they're also juggling before they play in the they're going to be playing. I forget what country are they
Playing
Ajax.
Ajax.
Playing away. Ajax. So
Ajax are awful.
So they'll just breeze through that. But they'll still, it does take it out of you, that travel and everything, and they will bring their strongest team to that. So I'm sure there is some good chance of a good performance against them. So let's see. And it's Matty Cash revenge time, isn't it? I'm interested. I just hope we don't do something stupid like just get someone sent off, being a bit overly emotional about that. The best way to upset Matty Cash is to make him lose that football match, not go in and 2-foot him. So the next question we had was, why did our midfielders not overlap and run at the defence? We need a bit more chaos around the box. Do you agree with that?
I think that's probably just down to game planning. Is this game referring to this one or the previous game?
Yeah, this previous one, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. In which case, I've already pretty much put that game out of my mind because we lost, and I'm thinking about games that we lose. But I mean, I think that a quick answer is that I think that Wolves have a very strong midfield, and if you are going to be creating chaos in the box, you open yourself up more to being open on the counter. So if you if a Sar or like a Bentancur vacates their position in their midfield, then that will create way more gaps that we then have to fill. Because especially when you don't have the wing backs back there to protect you. So like realistically, unless you're down a goal, you can only commit gift wrapping your opposition like a 4-on-2. Which isn't going to be a goal every time. We saw 1-0 yesterday that wasn't a goal, but I guess a 1-on-1. But it's going to be it's just one of those things that it would be nice if we could just put every person in the box and then have no worry of a counter. But especially with a team that's drilled as well as Wolves are to just hit a team on the counter, you open yourself up to that. And we saw even without being overly attacking in terms of Ange Ball. I think some people would argue that Ange Ball is always overly attacking, which I, for one, I'm a huge fan of. But you look at how they scored those goals, and we conceded because of their brilliant counterattacking.
Yeah. And that question was from Cam, by the way. So thanks for your question, Cam. We probably won't dive into the next preview because we'll probably record another pod on Thursday. But did you guys have anything else you wanted to add before we kind of finish up?
I think that I just want to just kind of recap the Crystal Palace game one more time, because I feel like it kind of bears repeating that even world-class teams aren't going to be world-class for 90 minutes every game. I mean, like, look at the City game. They went into the half losing to a pretty poor United side, and they ended up winning 3-1 because that's what world-class teams do, is they just win. Mm-hmm. And we may not have looked our best against Crystal Palace, but I don't think that we were floundering by any stretch of the imagination. I think that we were creating. We weren't creating that many chances, but we still created a chance that realistically you expect to be finished, even if Johnston made a great save and a great play, and Werner probably could have done better, you could argue. But we we were a bit unlucky to go into the half not up, and then we were a bit unlucky to concede a brilliant free kick, and then we were a bit unlucky that Son hit the post, and we were a bit unlucky that Diaz wasn't offsides. So we are now formally barred from getting anything but the clearest of cut penalties. So
one penalty all season.
One penalty all season, and it was like just because Son got chopped down by a goalkeeper. So like they couldn't not give that one, despite us having what the highest or second highest. We're definitely in the top 2 of touches in opposition penalty area.
Yeah, and
at least last I checked.
We're playing against a team that's goalkeeper was booked for time wasting. Like it's one of those games that it is tough. Oh, we didn't actually mention this unless I missed it. My apologies. But Brian Hill must be thinking, my career is surely finished at Spurs. He couldn't even make the bench. And Solomon's got to come back as well, who sounds like he'll be ahead of him as well. Dane Scarlett was chosen to fill that spot ahead of him, which I guess like you need a backup striker over that backup left winger, but it does seem like Brian's surely on that sell list for the summer.
Yeah. Shame.
It is
definitely a talented player. He'll do well in Spain, probably.
But Werner's better than him, isn't he? Personally, I think he adds more threat. He's not the same type of player at all. Like, sure, if you had to put 50 quid on one player to beat someone in terms of dribbling past them from a static position, you'd go for Brian Hill.
I'm putting this between him and Werner.
The other thing that's just worth reflecting on is, a couple of weeks ago, we were looking over his shoulder. United, they've lost their last 2 games. Now we're 6 points ahead of them. We've played a game less than them. And, like things can change really quickly. So as much as I probably agree with Stu about next week, certainly if you lose the game, it's going to be very difficult to close the gap on Villa. But, I mean, things can change pretty quickly too. When you're looking at the table, and we're all probably a little bit guilty of being a little bit quick to panic sometimes when it comes
I'm just
to
conscious of that run in April.
But I think also we were talking yesterday, those matches are against teams that are going to be attacking us, and like we are in many ways like better suited to be more effective in those sorts of games. So I actually, it's a really exciting prospect. I'm not dreading those games, and I think even in the games when So I think it's going to be. And we've got City and Arsenal at home, which is obviously does make a difference. I'm really up for, obviously like everyone else, for the derby. I think I really fancy us. Obviously don't know what's going to happen in terms of player availability and stuff, but I think that I'll be quite, I'm not saying confident, but I'll be quite hopeful that we can do a lot of damage with the players that we have in those games because of the way that the opposition will play against us. So we'll see.
It's the way the tape. It's the way that football works with points, though. You feel like 9 points. We're completely out of it. We're never going to catch that team. That's just, when you break it down. No, that's 3 wins. Yeah. And like it's not uncommon for a team to lose 3 in a row and a team to win 3 in a row. Like those things. Like Arsenal, who are playing amazing and they're at the peak of their powers at the moment. They're 2 wins and a draw ahead of us, and we've got a game against them at home. So say Spurs won that home game, you're 1 win and 1 draw behind a team that's 5 years into this process. And then suddenly, if we win our next game against Villa and Arsenal lose tomorrow, suddenly everyone's going, ooh.
Maybe next week. Yeah.
Maybe.
Let's not say tomorrow. They're not losing tomorrow.
No, they're not losing to Sheffield United.
Maybe we'll say if they lose next week.
Brentford at home.
You got to, Johnny, your approach. Like just in the way Rio Ferdinand says, just enjoy it. You know what I mean? Just enjoy football. Like just enjoy the fact you've got big games. And if you lose, who cares? Like just have fun and just enjoy it because that's what it's all about. It can't always be. And James Alcott said this on his pod's really good because I like that. He said, do you know what it's like being a QPR fan and being when your only income is doing this, talking about football? I've spent every day talking about your football clubs, listening to all of you moan about being in the top 6 of the Premier League. That's all the clubs we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And that is like Portsmouth fans he was speaking to are doing like a League One show or something. He's like, they're happier than Spurs fans. Yeah. They are happier than you. They are so happy because they're happier being top of League One than they were when he was talking to them in a relegation fight in the Premier League or the Championship. But it's
Well, yeah.
always relative.
Yeah, because that makes a bit of sense though, right? Because like winning is the pill that makes all pain go away, and you can only play who's in front of you. So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, of course you're going to be happier in a top of the Championship than bottom of the Premier League because you're winning.
Yeah.
You can't, like, I don't know, if you talk to the tournament team in like 7th or 8th in the Championship, I'd say they're probably going to be about equally. As if you're talking to the team in 7th in the Championship, they're probably going to be less happy than the team in 7th and in the Premier League because you're outside of the playoffs, and you get the team in 7th is what, like, Conference League, whatever. I don't know. I don't know how the coefficient spots work anymore, but I don't know. I think that we definitely do need perspective. I agree with that. But
control your enjoyment though by setting your own expectations.
Yeah,
And-
but expecting yourself to play, I both get your point and empathize with the people who feel the way that we're talking about, because obviously you want your team to win every game, else you wouldn't support them, right?
And
So,
you got to dream of the top
exactly
thing.
You have to dream. You have to dream, and of course, whenever the dream is dashed, eventually, like everyone was dreaming, every Tottenham fan was dreaming when we at the beginning of the season before God decided that we weren't allowed to have fun anymore and just like smited down half our players. Everyone was dreaming, and then when that came crashing down, we played with 2 fullbacks at center back, and we went on a poor run of form. Obviously, that's gonna suck, and like even though that's that we've evened out at a place that we probably should have been from the start of the season, like that's not fun. But I think that the thing isn't necessarily to like not dream and like not be upset that you're not winning the league. It's just the means of taking it out, I guess, is the part that I think a lot of people need to focus on. Because I am perfectly content where we are right now, but I was not overly thrilled to watch games when we were playing the way that we were playing when we were playing with like 2 fullbacks, and center backs. Like I said, this even like a couple of the past weeks, it's been like, do I want to get up and watch us play against a low block team and hopefully break them down after 70 minutes? That's kind of how our past couple of weeks had been, and like that's not necessarily the most fun experience as a fan. But you take the good with the bad, right?
But yeah,
And we say, do we have to break us to down for 70 minutes? I don't know. I'm kind of talking long road to nowhere, but
I think though, like even last season under Conte, and you're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get a flight to go over and watch what you are not surprised to be watching because you've watched it, several times before. You still go to the plane. Okay, you might have a sense of dread is probably a little bit too strong, but a foreboding. There is still then the fact that we might conjure up again, like the Leeds game last year, which we won 4-3. There were some really enjoyable games in there, and it's like still Tottenham. It's still like, we ended up, most of us, really not liking Conte, but there were times when he was like, this great charismatic leader that we were all wanting to get behind, all that Conte cam stuff and everything. So
yeah, you're right.
I think we need to be. Everyone's got their own perspective, their own individual point of view, but I think for people like ourselves who are like really kind of diehard, and it means an awful lot to your existence. I know it's like sounds quite strong, but it's true. At the end of the day, I get what you've said there, Teach, about like, do I want to watch it? But like the point is, it's like it's Tottenham, so there's a cockerel on a shirt, and they're playing somebody crap from in Slovenia. It's still Tottenham, and it doesn't really matter. Like, and I'd like to watch some more of the underage games because I've not actually made the time to do that. Because even like today was the North London Derby for women, and there's a lot of progress on that point. Is Tottenham still
crowd,
like so?
By the way, apparently.
Yeah, they are.
at the Emirates.
Sold
We've
out,
set
yeah.
that crowd.
They've sold
Yeah,
out
so
a few times.
they made it
Wow.
as well. And
Wow.
I think because the wages are so low in women's football, the clubs are realising, actually, this could be really profitable. So that actually, which is a good outcome, they're actually going to be putting more investment into that's such a topic. But yeah, Johnny, like I kind of think like if you know Men in Black, that little pen that raises your memory, if you could have that, and or the Harry Redknapp era, you can only keep
Well,
one.
Ramos, we won a cup, mate.
Exactly, that's what I'm getting with. Would you keep the one day Ramos era, or would you keep the Redknapp era? Because for me, us like beating Arsenal on that ball header under Redknapp, and like Van der Vaart hushing the crowd, those moments I enjoyed more than that period under Ramos, even though we won a pot. Like I just wish we could go back to just going into playing Arsenal or Man City at home and be like, I love this. We're not favourites, but if we win, it's going to be awesome, and I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm not worried about what it means to the league position. I'm just going to enjoy that 90 minutes of football.
And that was before you could get bantered on Twitter. Don't understand.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Twitter has made football fandom so much more absolutely just miserable. Because you have the burden of expectation, obviously, and then you also have the you have these fans of rival teams that take it upon themselves to make everyone else miserable.
I don't understand. Maybe it's just me, but I really don't understand people getting upset by people making that you've never met, some random twat on Twitter, insulting you, and people get really all riled up and angry, and it ruins their day. Like, what can I come back with? I'm like, who cares?
Even Everton fans have gotten really weird lately. Like, this cartel, the Sly Six, the Red Cartel, the Big Six cartel, all this weird stuff. Like, I'll just put a post up on the Oso Spurs page, and I'll just be like, what an assist by Maddison. And they'll be like, wasn't that good? Rubbish. I see it every day in the Championship. Spurs shit. And you're just like, what are you doing? Like, why have you gone out of your way to attack? It's so weird. It's like, miserable.
They've got issues going on at home.
Yeah, they do.
Got issues going on at home. Yeah,
they're the equivalent of their family dogs are going to be put down soon. The wife's not talking to them, and she's probably sleeping with the builder. It's all a bit messy at the moment, and they're just lashing out at everyone else at work.
Yeah,
100%.
I don't get the mentality of the fan that goes and tries to make everyone else like miserable. But I think those people, while they are an issue, aren't the issue. I think that the real issue is that we've kind of embraced this whole like mentality thing as fans. Which mentality as a player, fantastic, good. Be the weird psychopath killer, whatever. I don't care. On the pitch or whatever, like that whole Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. Yeah. Sorry to use American sports, but that's just how I grew up. That's my frame of reference when I think of people like that. But for some reason, fans have decided that they also think that they should think that way, and they shouldn't, because it creates zero positive outcome. And when people criticize a club, you have a section of the fan base who is like, I need to be a mentality monster. And then they're like, yes, that criticism is correct. We are shit.
Otherwise, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're part of the problem. That's when clubs get. That's when club fandoms get actually toxic. Is when you have the mentality monsters who are.
Yeah. Well, they all want to be
the talking points from the outside into the clubs.
They all want to be the main character. Isn't that what the kids say these days? Lol.
Yeah.
They think they're the main character. Like, stop trying to make it about you. You are the most insignificant, irrelevant person. And just because someone is virtually going to click a like button on you does not make you relevant. You're still a loser. Well, you're not always losers. You're just still an angry, irrelevant person on the internet. Just like we are when we do it as well. I did it today, right? I was going off at Foden in the big WhatsApp group with 120 people, and I'm there going, is Foden really that good? I think he's a bit of a mug, really. He wouldn't do it in a mid-table team, then bang, worldie. Bang, another goal. Rather than being like, all angry, you've got to take your medicine sometimes and be like, oh, yeah, I messed up there. I don't know why I was so toxic about him in the first place. He's an English international. He's built his own career from nothing. Worked his arse off to get where he is, and there it is. There's Jim, 32-year-old miserable Jim, slagging him off, 100 miles away down the M25 for no reason. But there you go. I think we need to wrap up there, boys.
Yeah, probably.
Sounds good.
But
Be less miserable, everybody.
that's going to be the
Exactly.
title. Be less miserable and believe in Ange. All right, it's going to be
100%.
5-star.
Right.
Yeah. Up the Spurs, guys.
Shut your Spurs.
That was fun, you Spurs.